whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Whose car are we gonna take?
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show on this very wet and windy. I'm looking out the little slit in my window out there. Mostly wind for us in the San Jose area, but I know a lot of you guys are crazy. We will keep our eyes on the storm. Kim McAllister will be here in just a moment, and she's obviously going to have like the storm watch. There's a pretty simple website where you can see, the rivers and everything like that may be flooding. The Russian River, they're keeping an eye on. So they're keeping an eye on a lot of stuff. As we start the show, of course, please click that thumbs up for me. Please do it. YouTube loves it, which means I love it. I absolutely love it as much as I love all the people that have joined my Patreon crew. Become Medorables, as I like to call you guys. Just go to the NikkiMedoroShow.com, the NikkiMedoroShow.com. The Patreon link is there, and you can sign up. I'm going to do some videos throughout the year, some exclusive content that I will not share anywhere else. And of course, when I launch some new merchandise, we have hoodies. I'm trying to get the radio tower that's right here onto some sort of t-shirt or sweatshirt. So that's coming. I'm giving you guys some time with the merchandise I just released, but some more merchandise will be coming. And everyone that's part of my Patreon crew will get first dibs at it. If you like PayPal, you can donate to the show, the NikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com. That always helps us out. And of course, the super chat is live. I know so many of you like to donate each day, and I appreciate it. Kim appreciates it. It's a way to support the chat, the comments, the super stickers, all those things right there. The $sign underneath the chat is how you do that. All right. Now, I'm not popping any popcorn today, but it continues. In just a moment, we are hoping to get the Washington Post's Paul Kane on with us. He is the senior congressional correspondent and columnist, and he reports on Congress. He's been doing it for a very long time, and he's there. And he's been watching it. They are, and let me double check. Yeah, so they are in their fifth vote. There's no sign. Oh, they're on their sixth vote is expected soon. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's getting crazy. Now, this is, of course, for House Speaker. Kevin McCarthy is just desperate for it. So the last vote that I took a tally for, McCarthy was at 202, Jeffries was at 212, and there was a new person thrown in, not Jim Jordan, but Byron Donalds. Now, I don't know who this guy is. Here's a picture of him. I took out a picture of him. Here is Byron Donalds. So there he is. That's Lauren Boebert's on the right. That's Byron Donalds on the left. They made a huge show, which, it is history. For the first time in history, 2 Black Americans, obviously Hakeem Jeffries for the Democrats, and now Byron Donalds of Florida have been nominated for House Speaker. Here is what, let me bring up the sound. So Byron Donalds, of course, was surrounded by the media after he was nominated for House Speaker. And let's see, do I have him? And so Byron Donalds was being asked, what do you think about being nominated? And what are you going to do with this? And he started off with a little bit of a joke. He's like, well, they nominated me, so obviously they want me, but they could also be using him as kind of this card. So here he is outside after the vote to nominate him for House Speaker.
I think right now it's something where I told my colleagues, I didn't come to D.C. being interested in becoming Speaker of the House. But I also understand that, part of my responsibility is to make sure that our conference gets to a point where we are doing the things in an effective and constructive way, that we campaign on back home. And so I'm going to help do that any way I can.
So there again, Byron Donalds, the Republican nominee, one of them for House Speaker. Again, McCarthy, 202. Jeffries 212. No Democrats. Congressman Richie Torres said no Democrats will be voting for Kevin McCarthy to be the next speaker under any circumstance. Everyone will still vote for Hakeem Jeffries. There was also another change, and I was just watching CNN, and this woman was talking about this. This is the Republican Congresswoman Victoria Spartz from Indiana. She did not vote for McCarthy, even though she had done it yesterday. She'd voted for him 3 times. She instead voted present. Okay, so that actually drops down the threshold, I believe. I think now it's at 217 that McCarthy would need if she voted present. Some weird thing. This is now the 9th. Listen to this stat. This is the 9th most protracted speaker election in U.S. history. Now, the 8 elections that took longer required 9, 10, 11, 12 votes, and then 22, 44, 63, and then one more. You guys tell me in the chat. I don't have the fun music that Mark has, but you guys tell me in the chat. And don't Google it. Don't cheat. What do you think was the most votes there has ever been in history for House Speaker? All right, so let me give you the numbers again. You guys tell me in the chat. So there was 9, 10, 11, 12, 22, 44, 63, and then one other number, obviously higher than 63. What do you think it is? All right, let me go to the chat and read some of these. I don't know if Mo is saying 4, but maybe I think that's a little earlier for my question. Nick's saying 130. JR is saying there's been 200 votes in our entire history that were made before we had a House Speaker. RJ says in the 120 range. Neiman is also thinking that it's in the 120 range. Yeah, I mean, that's now, but think about this. As you guys are thinking about your answer, they have to go to the House floor and they have to vote. I mean, and how many votes do you think you need to have before you're just like, I don't care. It could be my mother for all I care. Let's just get this done. Let's get people sworn in. Because think about how many days this would have had to take. All right, so the top number so far, man, we can maybe get to it if Kevin McCarthy just doesn't give in. The most votes ever to find a House Speaker was 133 votes. 133 times. 133 times they went and voted. But there's no math. It was just a guess. It's like A, B, C, or D. Just choose B. It's fine. But that's funny. Yeah, Mo Direct, 1856, it took more than 2 months before they elected Speaker of the House. I don't think we're going to have that much patience nowadays. All right, we're still waiting, again, for Paul Kane. And again, he's there and he's been following all of this. So I might have to send him a message maybe at the next break because he's down there. He's been watching the whole entire thing. And so when he joins us, we will bring him on. But there was a lot of things that were happening today that I'll show you. One was former President Trump straight up said, vote for Kevin McCarthy. And maggots were not happy about it. So former President Donald Trump issued a statement of support after he lost the 3 separate votes yesterday. But Trump's strongest supporters were not having any of it. So this is what Trump wrote on his social media. Vote for Kevin. Close the deal. Kevin McCarthy will do a good job and maybe even a great job, which isn't a huge endorsement. Anytime somebody says maybe they'll do a great job, you're like, thanks, but no thanks. Can you be a little more enthusiastic for it? Commentator Laverne Spicer, who was a former congressional candidate, wrote, how about I support someone who I know will do a great job and doesn't have a proven track record of failure like Kevin? Let's see. Anthony Sabatini, another former congressional candidate, wrote, real MAGA will never support McCarthy. Fake MAGA supports McCarthy. Conservative streamer Tim Pool was quoted as saying, Trump has basically retired. And Congressman Matt Gaetz, of course, one leading the charge against McCarthy, said supporting McCarthy is the worst human resources decision President Trump has ever made. Sad! Exclamation point. Yeah, even other people. A lot of people are saying, no, I love Trump, but he is wrong on this. And he thought that he was different. So what does this mean? I mean, is this a good thing? Does this mean that finally Trump is losing his control on the Republican Party, on certain members of the GOP? I mean, it used to be whatever Trump said, people would jump. How high, Trump? Let me lick your boots, Trump. Exactly. Calvin Gates is the worst human. Sad. So is McCarthy. Again, couldn't have happened to a worse politician. Let me show you some video. Again, was today. And this is actually Lauren Boebert. Again, Lauren Boebert is a never Kevin person. Let me share my screen really quickly. And here she was throwing her support behind who I was talking about before, which is Byron Donalds. So here we go. Here's Lauren Boebert.
So let's work together. Let's stop with the campaign smear.
Hold on. I wanted to make this big, but I don't think it's going to work for me. Oh, is it not working for me?
And tactics to get people to turn against us. Even having my favorite president call us and tell us we need to knock this off. I think it actually needs to be reversed. The president needs to tell Kevin McCarthy that, sir, you do not have the votes and it's time to withdraw. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Yeah, so they're not having it, Kim McAllister. They're not having it. They don't care what Trump
went
says.
against the president. Woo,
yep,
woo.
the former president. Yes, let's be clear. Yeah, they don't seem to be swayed by Trump saying, vote for Kevin McCarthy. He may do a great job, which is not a, great endorsement. But there is possibly a lifeline from an unexpected source. And that could be the Democratic Party. So there is a woman by the name of Marcy Kaptur. She's a Democratic congresswoman from Ohio. And let me show you her picture. Let's see. There she is. This is her. And look, this is one of her ads. Works with Republicans. And this is what she had to say following, the failed votes for Kevin McCarthy.
Maybe what we need to do is look to some kind of an arrangement that embraces people from both sides of the aisle and create a big middle, because we can't be ruled by fringes. That's not in America's interest, and the people are telling us that. They are telling us every time you go out to a meeting, Marcy, bring the country together, unify the country, and then you see this display today. It reaffirms their feeling that things aren't going right here. So right now, coming out of the pandemic, America needs healing. We need it in our schools. We need it in our communities. We need it among families. The pandemic was not easy, and many people are hospitalized right now, right? Families have stress related to health care. So it's a time for the Congress to be grown-ups and to do our work and not to create all this unnecessary chaos and confusion here. So I think that I was thinking today, gosh, Kevin McCarthy was only short a few votes. I wish I could be part of some kind of a unity caucus that would yield him the votes, because the Republicans hold the majority, and maybe put us in a special category. I was going around talking to some of my Republican colleagues about that. I said, what would we call that? Where we would lend our votes to Kevin McCarthy. I'm a Democrat, but I have many Republicans in our district. And not that we would agree with them on everything, but at least let the man become Speaker. He had initially, I think, 212 votes, and then there was all this hubbub and everything. But the country's this close to proper governance, and though I don't agree with some of the Republicans here in Congress, there are many worthy ideas there, example being agricultural labor.
What do you think about, again, that is Marcy Kaptur, what she's saying right there? I don't want to give the Republicans an inch, because they have not shown, they've actually proven time and again that he cannot be trusted. And that's the problem. That's the problem. Okay, great. We have joining us right now, and I'm sure he's very busy, but we have the Washington Post's Paul Kane. Paul, thank you so much. I know you're busy following the votes that are happening today.
Yeah. Sorry. Just
no. It's been crazy today.
Bouncing around the floor. I'm just in a little cubby hole out off the house floor. We should be somewhat soundproof, so I'm here.
Oh, no problem.
Get going.
All right, so just bring us up to speed. So what is happening right now?
They are going through nominating speeches for a 6th ballot. They are going to do, it'll be the 3rd one today, just as they did 3 yesterday. They are, each time the Republicans pick a different person to be the nominator for Kevin McCarthy. This time they have Kat Cammack, who is a sort of fiery Southerner from Florida, Northern Florida. And she's sort of an ally of these outlier conservatives who hate McCarthy. And so like each time they have somebody new speak to McCarthy and what they perceive as his strengths, with the hope that it'll convince somebody to switch and change their mind. So far, the only people who have changed their minds are people who have broken against McCarthy. So they'll get started with the alphabetical roll call here in a couple more minutes. There'll be another nominating speech by Democrats for Jeffries, and there will be somebody presumably nominating Byron Donalds again of Florida. I wasn't able to see who it was that would give that speech, but then they'll get to the roll call of the alphabet, and it will probably end up exactly the same.
Now you wrote, one real quick, Kim, you wrote this article that Kevin McCarthy wasn't the one 7 years ago, and he wasn't yesterday. It's not looking like things are changing. Can you just, from your perspective, tell me, it's kind of a blunt question, what's wrong with Kevin McCarthy, not just, as a politician for some Americans, but as a Republican colleague within the GOP?
It comes down to this, and the House of Representatives is a lot like high school. And so I'll use a metaphor that I think most people will understand. There's that person in high school who wants to be friends with everyone and is always trying to be friends. And he wants to be friends with the jocks and the cheerleaders and the smart kids and the kids who aren't really all that smart. And he it's really nice in 9th grade. You're like, gosh,
right.
That kid who's not really popular, he's nice to him. But by 11th grade, you sort of realize this guy just wants everyone to like him.
Yeah.
It's not about others and helping others. He just likes being liked. And by 12th grade, you really kind of can't wait till you're graduated and you don't have to see him anymore.
Right.
That's really his who he is as a person. And when you're talking about congressional leaders, the most important qualities is that they have to be really respected, number one, and feared by some. And Kevin McCarthy really doesn't generate a whole lot of respect, and he generates no fear at all. And he's just liked. People like him, but they don't love him. And it's left.
And they're not going to follow him.
Yeah, and it's left this core group of about 20 who really, really, really just dislike him. And they just decided, over time, they just realized, I don't want to do anything with this guy.
Yeah.
And there's nothing they can do to break those 20 right now, and there's some pretty deceitful people among this group of 20. These are not, a lot of them are just openly deceitful. They'll tell you something and they basically will almost admit that they're lying as they tell you. These are not honest brokers who are preventing him from getting this gavel. A lot of them supported Trump in the effort to overthrow the election. So these aren't great people, but that also makes them really hard to negotiate with. Number one, they're constantly moving goalposts, and they just don't necessarily want to come to a deal.
Yeah. Kim, did you have a question?
I did. You were talking about the 6th round of voting now.
Yep.
About to get underway. And I was reading an article on CNN. Representative Spartz said she abstained from voting because she says there needs to be more deliberation. So I wanted to ask you, why do they push on with a 6th round of voting? Can't they just take a beat, go back, talk this out and then not vote again until they can come to some type of consensus?
Yes and no. They probably, I think, will adjourn after this vote. I don't think anything's going to change. If there's any change, I think it might be another vote or two against McCarthy. But that's probably not likely. I think they just don't quite know the way out of the situation. If they adjourn again for the day and say, come back tomorrow, the chances of McCarthy winning get lesser and lesser. His chances really begin to fade, and people really will begin to start talking about alternatives.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like there should be a meeting of the minds talking, bring all of them together. But the reality is they had already been talking so much. McCarthy had been meeting with these people, and they're at a place where it's so toxic that them meeting and talking wouldn't do any good.
Won't accomplish anything.
McCarthy's already talked out with these folks. So he needs his emissaries, his friends who are sort of friends with him, to go talk to these people. And that's what's really been happening. Anytime there's a break, all the members scatter apart and they go into these little balls. It looks like a high school lunchroom, different crowds are talking and people move about. And that's where you're hoping that something will break and they'll get this.
It's not likely, though. I mean, I just keep thinking about how former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she would have never gone through something like this. She would have never been, even before, the last time that she was nominated for House Speaker, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but the progressives like AOC did not want her. And she made some sort of promises, I won't be seeking another term after this, and got them in line before it went down there because she needed to. And she's known for that. McCarthy's no Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, I spoke with Pelosi yesterday. I out of respect, we still refer to people who are former speakers as speaker. But I joked with her. I said, "Should I still consider you the speaker?" And she basically laughed. But I asked her about this process, and she basically made that point. Like you don't keep having votes if you don't know if you're gonna win, because the more you vote, the more you lock in the no. It becomes easier to vote no, or in this case, to vote against McCarthy. It's really hard for members of Congress to change their vote. I know that the general public is like, oh, they're all just corrupt and sleazy. They'll do whatever you want or whatever. They do not like changing their votes. There are still people that will try to defend the Iraq War vote 20 years after it was sort of proven to be a bad vote. The weapons weren't there. And they still try to get all kind of, well, no, I meant this and that and all the rest. And so the idea that these folks are just going to flip is, unless they get something real in return, and what they're asking for are things like committee chairmanships and bumping other people off of committees. It's some tough stuff that most of the rest of their Republican conference won't go for.
Right. Well, I know that you're busy, but I do want to get your take on Byron Donalds, Jim Jordan. Are we seeing an alternative emerge? Are these just cards that are being played? How are you seeing this play out with the other names? Jim Jordan wasn't even voted for today. It was Byron Donalds. How do you make sense of that?
Oh, these are just cards that are being played. They are these hardline conservatives are really just picking people that they know that get some level of respect from the far right corners of the conference. They don't actually suspect that Byron Donalds, who was only supposed to be just starting his second term. They don't think he's actually going to be speaker or should be speaker. I think you're going to look at people like Steve Scalise, who's the number 2 Republican. There's other figures out there who will emerge, but it's still not clear whether this gang of 20, now 21, will support anyone.
I mean, Trump telling them to vote for Kevin McCarthy didn't even sway any of them. So I don't know what will.
Lauren Boebert got up and gave a speech, and she said specifically that, like, call off all your campaign dogs. Don't bother. Tell Trump to stop calling us. It's not changing our minds.
Wow, it's going to be very interesting to watch. So they're doing the tally for the next vote, the 6th vote. Yep. It could go all day though, right?
It's just a time waster. Nothing's going to change. What's the point?
Right.
I know. I hear you, but.
Well, we appreciate your time. Paul Kane is the Washington Post senior congressional correspondent and columnist. His column about Congress at PK Capitol appears throughout the week and on Sundays. Paul Kane, thank you so much for coming on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you both. I really appreciate it.
Enjoy the day. Thanks. Yeah. So it's going to be nuts. It's going to be a repeat of yesterday. I didn't make my popcorn, Kim, because I was like, it was fun yesterday. Now it's just, yes, it's still funny to see. But again, the House of Representatives cannot do anything. That hurts us as a country.
Let me read you a little bit about what Representative Victoria Spartz of Indiana had to say to CNN. She said, I think it's important for us as Republicans to address concern and come to an agreement and not waste everyone's time. Mm-hmm. And we need to have further deliberation to make sure we can elect a speaker. She said, we need to go back to the conference room and have this discussion. No one's going to budge. It's not going to change. And I think we have a constitutional duty to elect a speaker. She said, this body needs to learn how to deliberate and come to an agreement.
Yeah. But that's not what they're good at. They're good at bickering and yelling and screaming at each other. And everyone's weighing in on this. Howard Stern, obviously, has a radio show. I wanted to just play you the sound of what he had to say. And it was kind of echoing what I was saying yesterday about Kevin McCarthy.
The reason the dude can't become Speaker of the House is that these Republicans have let in so many kooks that the kooks will not vote for him.
Yeah, they wanted to win at all costs, so they opened the door to crazy.
To crazy. And now the crazy is acting crazy, which is exactly what you knew they would do.
Exactly. And then Matt Gaetz, did you see this story in the New York Times? He's accusing Kevin McCarthy of squatting in the speaker's office. So apparently Kevin McCarthy keeps going back to the speaker's office to kind of hang out by himself. And so Matt Gaetz wrote in a letter he wrote this to the architect of the Capitol. Okay. He says, after 3 undeciding votes, no member can lay claim to this office. How long will he remain there before he is considered a squatter? Now this obviously is a big slap in his face, but while Gaetz is correct that McCarthy doesn't have claim to the speaker's office, the New York Times makes a very interesting point. Every other incumbent who was reelected is technically not a member of Congress because of this mess.
So they're all squatting.
They have yet to be sworn in, and that can only be done when a speaker is chosen. So neither Gaetz or any other member has a right to lay claim to their offices either. So the architect of the Capitol hasn't responded, at least according to the time that I was reading that article. But again, it's gridlock. Like, nothing is happening. And that sucks for us because we have things that need to start being negotiated on, all sorts of things. I know, and we were laughing about this. George Santos, of course, that congressman-elect that's just a big fat liar and possibly a criminal. Apparently, he's been hiding in his office, and he's only coming out to vote for McCarthy. Although today they did see him mulling around with some of the Never Kevin people. And I don't know. I'm like, dude, just stay in your corner because you could be next. I mean, who knows what's going to happen to that guy? But yeah, Ricky's absolutely correct. The GOP does not govern, and they're getting it in the shorts today and yesterday. I have my screen up. I'm not seeing any sort of update on the vote yet. But yeah, they're going to be doing another vote. McCarthy and Jeffries. I can't even believe that Jeffries is, I mean, I can, because obviously he's the Democratic nominee,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's funny. All right. Click that thumbs up button before we go to Kim's news. We really love it. It costs you nothing except a quick click. I know. I mean, even sometimes I forget to click it. So just go, even if you're watching this on replay, you don't have to do it live. Click the thumbs up. YouTube loves it. We do have some donations in the super chat already. So let me give some shout outs right now. Beth started us off with $20. Oh. Stay dry and safe, everybody. Yeah, it's crazy out there. I know Kim's going to be having storm watch, and we'll talk about the storm also in the next half hour. Gary D from Sandy and Gary D giving us another $20. Kevin Hobbs, $15. Thank you so much, you guys. And then finally, JR, $20.23, 2023. I love it.
So nice.
And an anecdotal donation, your shirt, which I'm assuming he's meaning mine, also translates to honesty, according to my Gaelic speaking friend.
Really?
Really? I put this on because my lights were flickering this morning. And I was like, I am going to be on air today. I put on my shirt. Yeah, my power went out twice. The internet went out, obviously, along with it. But that was this morning. And it's actually seeming pretty, I'm keeping my eye on this one tree outside my window. Seems a little bit calm right now, at least in San Jose. So you guys tell me in the chat, send pictures in, the Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com. We could throw them up. You can send them during the show. And we'll even throw them up tomorrow if you want to email them. And I don't get it in time if you're watching this on a replay, because it's been crazy, wet and wild this morning, and it will continue to be today. So we'll talk the storm. We'll talk about Southwest trying to buy your love back. Will it work? What is the price of your love to fly on Southwest again? We'll talk about that next on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Yes, indeed. And this report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. We go right to the storms. Rain in San Francisco and around the Bay Area. We've got it already falling today. It's a super soaker. And last week's storm is drifting across the Midwest, but in comes a new storm to the Bay Area. Dangerous and possibly deadly. The threat to life serious, according to the National Weather Service. Heavy rain could trigger brutal flooding and mudslides with winds strong enough to knock down trees and power poles. The southern part of our state won't be hit quite so hard, but we'll still see up to 3 inches of rain, possible flooding, and dangerously high waves at beaches. High waves at our beaches as well, 20 to 30 foot swells, and they are warning people, stay off the beaches, rocks, and jetties. Don't even try it. Speaking of landslides, there is a neighborhood in Point Richmond that had to be evacuated today because of a potential landslide. Pretty serious business. The neighborhood is called the Seacliff neighborhood in the city of Richmond. Point Richmond specifically, near Brickyard Cove, is under threat, so everyone there has had to leave. And the state of California taking this very seriously as well. The Office of Emergency Services is being activated for the first time since 2019. My apologies. It's the Flood Operations Center from the California Offices of Emergency Services. It's helping residents get sandbags and other supplies. Crews have been watching a flood system of 1,600 miles of levees since this severe weather began last week. Equipment is set up at 38 locations for rapid deployment, and levee inspectors are fanning out across the state. Of course, after last weekend's levee breach of the Consumnes River in the Sacramento area, this becomes key. And it's a state of emergency as well. This morning, the California Governor's Office announced it has issued a state of emergency to support response and recovery efforts to the large winter storm sweeping through the state. We are getting prepared. This proclamation will allow the state to respond quickly as the storm develops and support people in their ongoing response across California. So the Flood Operations Center in place, and now we've got a state of emergency for the entire state of California as well. Super sad story, this one. Charges are now being filed after a car went off a cliff in the Pacifica area, Devil's Slide. Police arrested the driver, saying he deliberately veered off the road Monday with his wife and their daughter, 4-year-old daughter and 9-year-old son inside. They went down 300 feet off of a cliff, landing on the rocks near the edge of the Pacific Ocean. This is crazy because people don't usually survive this, but the car landed on its wheels.
Wow.
And for whatever reason, everyone inside survived. They were rescued. The Pasadena man, though, now accused of attempted murder, child abuse. Police say he will be taken to jail once he's arrested from the hospital, but his wife and the 2 children did survive it.
Oh, thank God.
I know, it's really awful. Buffalo Bills. This is a situation that's sad as well. But even though he's still in critical condition, Damar Hamlin apparently has some promising numbers at the hospital, according to his representative, who told ESPN he's still in critical condition. He suffered cardiac arrest after a tackle during Monday Night Football against the Bengals Cincinnati. But they say, according to his representative, that medical readings are promising. So we'll keep hoping that he ends up to be okay. A cryptocurrency exchange and financial regulators reaching a $100 million settlement. As part of that, Coinbase will pay a $50 million fine for anti-money laundering law violations. The latest hit to the crypto world comes just months after the collapse of FTX. And here it is, the FBI upping its award for anyone who could give them information about the pipe bombs placed at the DNC and RNC before the Capitol riot nearly 2 years ago. That comes out to $500,000 for that information. Video footage released previously shows a person walking near both headquarters. So again, the FBI says they will be paying out big time for any information, anyone that can come forward and let them know what happened there. Here's this lovely people. Chrisley knows best.
This couple, I never watched this show, but they just, I don't want to speak terribly, but he just has a face you want to slap. But yeah.
I remember flipping by and just seeing people yelling at each other and flipping away quickly. It's Chrisley Knows Best is the show. Star Todd Chrisley plans to do a tell-all interview now before heading to prison. During a recent episode of his Chrisley Confessions podcast, Todd said his son Chase will interview him next week and nothing is off limits. Todd and his wife Julie Chrisley were convicted of fraud and tax evasion charges back in June. Their whole thing was having money. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, they had money.
Having money, what the kids wanted with the money, the house, fancy everything.
Idiots.
Enjoy jail. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. They should have called him.
Yes.
Maybe had they would be in different situation at this time. But Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for more than 30 years for individuals and businesses alike. You can call Steve at 888-TAX-DEAL. You can find him on the internet at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Yeah, I never watched that show. I don't know what it is. And I think it's just like the human nature in us. Like when we hear about really rich people or reality TV show stars that kind of flub all the time,
right.
You're just like, yeah, well, you're an idiot, right? And it doesn't seem to bother us as much. So yeah, bye. Have fun in jail. And yes, Flo, they should have called Steve. Oh, and thank you, Matthew McConaughey. Or JR says Matthew McConaughey is still alive. Yes, thank you. I was giving my daughter grief about that yesterday because I shared that story. If you missed it, go back and watch yesterday's show. I was talking about this trend on TikTok where kids are holding up their phone and saying that some celebrity died, and my daughter tried to do it to me on Christmas. But while my sister-in-law was falling for it and my mom was kind of falling for it, I did not fall for it simply because I would know if my Matthew McConaughey right there was not alive anymore. Okay, so we are going to keep our eye on the vote. Hold on, let me check. I'm just keeping my eye on it. We could listen in a little bit. Let me see if I can bring this up.
Brushing my hair looks really bad.
Your
That's what
hair
you have to
does
worry
not.
about. You never had to worry about that with radio, and now you're like,
Oh, there you go.
So,
All right, so here's the vote. Let's see. Can I turn up the volume on this? Here we go.
Jeffries. Carey.
If you guys don't know,
McCarthy. Carl. McCarthy. Carson.
And they're obviously just starting it if they're at Carson right now. But yeah, I mean, McCarthy's not going to get it. I do agree that they should take a step back, try to renegotiate. I think the problem is that, and I don't know if you weren't here right at the start of the show, Kim, but so I'll ask you, I don't know if you were listening and cheating. Do you know what is the most votes that were ever taken for House Speaker?
I don't.
Guess. Okay, I'll give you. This is the ninth longest.
Okay, I'll 6. I'm going to say 15.
Oh God, way higher.
Really?
Yeah. So this is the ninth. This is the ninth most votes it's taken so far. Okay. So let me give you the other numbers and maybe that'll help you. Don't tell her in the chat either. All right.
I'm not looking at the chat. I'm not looking.
Okay. Don't look at the chat. Okay. So it was 9, 10, 11, 12, 22, 44, 63, and then the highest number.
88?
133.
Oh, what year was that?
133. I think Mo said it was like, well, obviously the 1800s or something like that. He said it was taking 2 months or something. This can't last 2 months. This can't last 2 months. So, 133 times.
You kind of hamstring everything. You know, the country can't do any business until this gets done.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot less business back then than there was now to get done. But Kevin McCarthy said, he's like, I don't mind having the record for the most votes for House Speaker to get to House Speaker. He said that.
Don't you think that's embarrassing?
Well, he doesn't care. I think he thinks he'll just wear these people down. And I would continue to dig in my heels looking at that face of someone that's just not realizing we don't want you. And so, yeah, so they're voting. We'll keep an eye on it. I'm absolutely loving the fact that he can't seem to get it. I love it because I don't think he deserves it. I don't, especially after January 6th. Yeah. In addition to everything else before that. It was funny. I played you that clip of Howard Stern. This is how not well known Kevin McCarthy is across the country. Howard Stern was like, I think he's from Long Island. And I was like, no. As I'm listening to this, and then Robin was all, no, California. And she didn't even know where in California. He's like, oh, what is it? Long Beach? She's like, no, Bakersfield. And so who was saying that Bakersfield is the American dream of living in Bakersfield? And I'm not knocking people that live in Bakersfield, but I don't think that if you're talking about paradise, Bakersfield is at the top.
No,
top of your list. Okay,
I'm having a bit of a John Rothman moment over here.
Oh, what's going on?
I was looking up the history about that 133.
Okay, lay it on me.
This is in 1856. This happened.
Oh, 1856. Okay, yeah.
The race pitted, according to History News Network, anti-slavery representative Nathaniel Bobby Boy Banks.
Ooh, I love Bobby Boys.
The Nativist American Party from Massachusetts against other candidates who were open to expanding slavery to new states and territories. The debate raged on amid mounting violence between pro-slavery and anti-slavery settlers in Bleeding, Kansas. So that's what that was about, right?
Yeah.
It was about slavery. What's this about?
This is about people who don't like Kevin McCarthy.
This is about,
they don't like him. And they don't think that he falls in line with the MAGA agenda. That's why these people don't like him.
Or this is about what, the 20 people who are incredibly selfish about what can I get? What committee assignments can I get? What can I get for me?
Exactly. Eric said, my brother-in-law grew up in Bakersfield. It's a hellhole. I don't know Bakersfield. I'm not going to judge Bakersfield. I will judge McCarthy though. Huge in Japan says Bakersfield has a bad rep, but it's only partially deserved. Yeah, I don't know. So we're keeping an eye on the vote. We'll see what happens. I don't know if you had this in your news, and I apologize, Kim, because I was getting my next stories ready. Did you have the Varsity Blues story?
No.
Okay, so breaking news. Rick Singer, remember the mastermind behind Varsity Blues? It was that college admissions cheating scandal. He's been sentenced today. 3.5 years in prison and supervised release. Yeah. 62 years old. Charges include racketeering conspiracy and money laundering conspiracy in connection with the scandal. In addition to 42 months served in prison, Singer will have 3 years of supervised release. He said he was ashamed of what he had done. Previously, believed that lying to win was acceptable because of victory. That's what he said. Lying to win was acceptable because of victory. He said, I've learned how to use my strong self-discipline to become an honest and legitimate person, adding that he can and will be a law-abiding citizen. Prosecutors did want a 6-year sentence, and defense attorneys requested 3 years probation or a maximum 6 months behind bars. Now, this is the longest in the case, followed by former Georgetown University tennis coach Gordon Ernst, who got 2.5 years for pocketing more than $3 million in bribes. And you guys will remember, it was parents, it was coaches, it was all kinds of people, Lori Loughlin, Felicity Huffman, that were all caught up in this cheating scandal of parents basically looking at their children and saying, you're just not smart enough to go to the college.
Does it seem like maybe he should have gotten longer than 3.5 years?
I think
for orchestrating this, for all the money, for the cheating on the SAT test, for everything. 3.5 years?
I mean, he was the mastermind. I mean, I think that the number of people that also, and of course, I don't know the sentencing guidelines for stuff like this, but I think that the fact that there were so many people involved, right? Yeah, he was the mastermind and kind of like directed things. So yes, maybe a little bit more, but this was done. You know what I'm saying? Like when this broke, one, yes, it kind of rocked college admissions. On the other hand, who was really surprised that people didn't pay to get their kids into something that they wanted them to get into? I just found it overwhelmingly sad. Because again, and I keep saying this, these are parents having to look at their children and saying, you're not smart enough, athletic enough, whatever, to get into the college I believe you need to go to. Because remember, Lori Loughlin's daughter never wanted to go to college. She went on her like YouTube channel that she was making a lot of money doing. It's like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. This is not what I want to do. But, and I think, and I'm not going to judge everybody, but I will, because that's what I do. I think it's just a status symbol for some of these parents. Oh, did you hear that my daughter got into USC? Oh, did you hear that my son got into blah, blah college? It's them. They're the problem. You know what so it's just like that Taylor Swift song. You're the problem, parents. It's you. Okay. And, I just think it's sad. They should instill in their children that if you want to go to a certain school, that you need to get the grades, you need to do the extracurriculars, you need to do whatever you can, and then also be prepared for disappointment. Yeah. You may not get what you want, even though we're rich enough to get you everything you want. This you should get on your own. We were talking about nepotism yesterday. And it was so funny, Kim. Do you think that this is nepotism? I don't think it is, because it's not like a huge leg up in anything. But my brother texts my family yesterday, and it's a picture of him and his daughter, my oldest niece. And he's like taking our new receptionist out for lunch. So my brother works for a nonprofit. This is not his receptionist. She's a receptionist for the nonprofit, like the building or whatever. But he's excited because then he gets to walk into the building all the time and see his daughter. And my dad's like, I don't think that's a very good idea. And I was like, why wouldn't it be a good idea? Oh, working for your dad, not really. I'm like, not really. A receptionist, not really nepotism. Some other high college admission, high ranking, position at a Fortune 500 company. All right. Receptionist, I think that we can cut her a break. Plus the job experience, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, Dad. Give him a break. I loved seeing her face, though. Yeah, I don't know. I think Rick Singer could have gotten more. But apparently, Singer said he now lives in a trailer park, if that makes you feel better. Can't get a job despite more than 1,000 attempts because of his role in the operation of Varsity Blues. He wrote, for most of my life, if not all of it, I have thrived on winning at all costs. My moral compass was broken, and increasingly over time, choosing right over wrong became less important than doing whatever had to be done to be recognized as the best. I think you could take that phrase and put that out of the mouth of every single parent that did this. And that's exactly what it is, So, yeah, we'll see. Yeah. That's true. I'm just looking at the chat. Flo, you can't force them to go to college. You can't force them to go to college, but can't force them to go to classes. Absolutely. Can a parent force their child to go to college? I mean, you could pay for it. They don't have to go, though, just like you said.
Well, no. And if you can, maybe you can force them to go,
I mean,
But
unless
you
you're
can't
dragging their ass out of bed, no, you can't.
you
I
can't make
mean,
them do well. Like, what's the point of it? If they're dragging their feet, they're not going to want to learn. They're not going to want to be there. They're not going to do the homework. They're not going to take advantage of the experience. Forget
mm-mm.
it.
Exactly. So yeah, again, Rick Singer, the mastermind behind Varsity Blues, that college admission scheme, sentenced to about 3.5 years in prison. Okay.
Did you
Oh, go
say
ahead.
he had to pay restitution?
No, I don't. Well, I don't see anything here about
Oh, okay.
restitution. He has to do supervised release. I would assume he'd have to pay something, but who would you pay it to? The parents that paid? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
they willingly gave up all of that money. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to look real quickly. I don't see any sort of money, but I could be wrong. This is just a quick article. Singer allegedly raked in more than $25 million from his clients, who paid it willingly, paid bribes totaling more than $7 million, and used more than $15 million of his clients' money for his own benefit. Well, obviously, they're paying him, so the hell. Yeah, so it doesn't say anything about restitution. But again, who would get the money? The college that benefited from it?
I guess federal fines. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something like that.
Yeah.
I'm glad they threw the book at him, and I'm glad that this came out. I don't think it really changes too much. I love Lori's comment. My tiny violin string just broke. Yeah. Exactly. Do you think that this scandal really fundamentally changed how parents view kind of those brand schools, those brand name, big name colleges, and the desire to get into them when they know that stuff like this has happened, if not is still happening?
I don't think it changed the desire to get in, but I think you kind of look askance now at the whole admissions process.
Oh yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
you wonder what's really going on behind the scenes, you know?
I mean, again, I'm a huge proponent of community college. I think especially here in California, where at some community colleges you can get 2 years free. Why the hell not, right? Instead of K through 12, it's K through 14. Yes, please. And not saying, I understand graduating from high school and wanting to go immediately to college. Community college is a cheaper alternative to get your GE and get your feet wet with the whole college experience. I think it can be also very good for kids who, while they got the grades and graduated high school, don't have the maturity to go to college on their own. Right? Don't have the maturity to be on their own, handle all of the, peer pressure for drinking and partying, not getting their butt out of bed, going to class, being on their own. I mean, I have heard stories from parents who are like, yeah, I don't even think my kid knows how to do a load of laundry. Now, that could be a failure on kind of the parenting a bit, right? Like, you should practice these things with your children ahead of time. I mean, my kids know how to do laundry because between learning how to use the remote, making me a cup of coffee, learning to do their own laundry and empty and load the dishwasher, hands down, has made my life a million times easier. But there was one time that my daughter did a whole load of laundry and forgot to put soap in. And so every time she does the laundry, I'm like, don't forget the soap. And she's like, one time I didn't do it. I'm like, well, we haven't hit that threshold for me yet. But yeah, so I don't know. Sending the kids off to college is going to happen sooner than you think. I mean, our daughters are going to high school next school year, Kim McAllister. So, then we only have a handful of years. Facebook destroys me all the time over stuff like this, right? All of a sudden, somebody's posting their child's high school graduation picture. And I'm like, wait a minute. How many years have passed? It goes by so quickly. And yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. But I do hope my kids take advantage of the free community college and maybe even stay closer to home. They could stay with mom and dad. I'll give you some freedom. You can go out, and as long as I know you're not dead on the street,
I think as long as there's motivation there, because I think it's easy when you're still at home,
right,
and you're going to community college, it feels like your life didn't really change very much, and then maybe you get a job and you start getting money, you're working for money, and now you're putting more focus on the job than you are in school. It's easy. What I'm saying is it's easy to let school go.
Yeah.
So you have to keep that motivation up. If you're on a college campus and you're living there and your whole focus is college, it's a lot easier to get through it.
Yeah. Right? I mean, community college for me was my saving grace. I mean, I went to a 4-year for my freshman year, and then I came back and I went to 2 years of community college. I went to West Valley, over in the Saratoga area. And I had, hands down, my favorite ever in my entire educational career. My favorite history teacher was at my community college. I actually learned history in a way that was interesting and fun. Yeah, I did a lot and I buckled down. I got the best grades I ever did up until then. I got better grades when I went to San Jose State University where I graduated. But yeah, I mean, I got it done and I was older. You know, there's something to be said with that first year in college. It's a lot. It's a lot to get used to. And, you know, my dad always, every time I say this, and if he's listening, he's going to be like, damn it. I always say I wasted his money. I did. And my freshman year in college, it was a total throwaway year. I didn't flunk out, but I could have done better. And I just don't think maybe I was mature enough to handle the many influences that were at Chico State for me my first year in college. So it's a tough call for a lot of people. Yeah. And nobody asks you what the number of colleges that you go to, by the way. Now, everyone always asks, where'd you graduate? I say I graduated San Jose State University. Yes, it's my third college, but it's the only one I mentioned. It's the one on my diploma, you know, and
well, no one cares about the other ones, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. Where you graduated from is all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. Dustin makes a great comment. More kids I know away at college are less focused than the ones at community college. They're drinking and partying every day, showing up to class hungover every day. And yeah, and I don't know, Dustin, if you're talking about the freshmen, the sophomore, I've heard, and I don't know if this is like studied, but by junior year, then you're really mature enough to kind of handle that situation. But when you send some kids, not all kids, to college freshman and sophomore year, especially freshman year, they're just so into, I'm going to party. I'm going to be on my own. Oh my God, my mom and dad aren't around. And so they just let loose. And so and they've said, even pushing back, even though I keep thinking bachelorette, but sorority and fraternities, if they would push back the grade that you can rush. So instead of starting it at freshman, if you even pushed it back to sophomore, you would have less incidents of like alcohol poisoning and incidents like that because these kids mature and they kind of get it out of their system. You let them rush their freshman year in college and they're going balls to the wall. And it's a dangerous situation, dangerous cocktail for these very young adults.
I like how you use the word cocktail there.
See, you follow along with me the whole time. Some great teachers at California Community College System. Glad you were inspired. I wish I could remember her name. She was a woman. She was younger. I think she was probably in her either late 20s, early 30s. She taught me history as a story, which I know history teachers try to do. But remember those, what did they call those books that you had to write in, you know, the blank books you had to write all of your essays in? There was a name for them. And she didn't care if you like wrote in the margins because you forgot something. She just wanted to know that you could tell the historical story of whatever we were talking about. And that made sense to the writer in me. You know, I can study names and dates. Here. There you go. Yeah. No, but it's the paper one. It's the blue. It's blue and it's
okay.
You know what I'm talking about? The blue book. Is that what it's called? The blue book?
Yeah.
That's probably easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, remember, she's like, if you forget something, she just wanted us to know that you understood that this led to this, that led to this, and told it in a story. And so to my journalism mind, that made sense to me. Other ones were like, you know, multiple choice and there was no story there. And I had a really hard time learning it. And so I absolutely, absolutely loved it. Okay. We're going to do news. I do want to touch on what Southwest Airlines is doing for all you pissed off passengers. Is it enough? Is what they are offering enough for you to consider using Southwest Airlines again? And then we will update, of course, and I know that Kim's following it as well, the Damar Hamlin, his status, it seems to be improving. I made a mistake when I was talking about it earlier, so I will fix that mistake. And then the Today Show was interviewing a number of parents about how they're feeling about, again, what we were talking about yesterday, letting your kid be in a sport like football, rugby, even soccer. And it's very interesting what was often said by parents. And so my question to you will be, who makes the decision on what activities your child participates in? Is it the child or is it the parents? So we'll talk about that. I have some cute dog videos coming up. A reminder that tomorrow we will have Krista Maloney on with the San Francisco SPCA to talk about some pooches that are up for adoption, because we love to see those pictures. So that's all coming up in the next hour of the Nikki Medoro Show.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. A flood watch remains in effect throughout the Bay Area. It is wet out there, I will tell you what. And it looks like this flood watch is staying in place until 4 p.m. tomorrow. Heavy rains, high winds are expected to cause localized flooding and mudslides, down trees, power outages. Officials urging folks to keep 911 open for real emergencies. Don't call for the little stuff, call for the big stuff. In San Francisco, non-life-threatening storm issues can be reported through 311. Life-threatening? 911. Windy and wet conditions at SFO are so far canceling 74 flights, causing 142 delays. The heaviest rains are expected to intensify later this evening. And speaking of mudslides, there's an entire neighborhood in Point Richmond, and I want to bring up this video, so I'm going to try to do it. Nikki, hopefully bear with me for just a moment. Here it is. Okay, this is can you see this on the screen at all? Let me take down the picture so you can see the video. Okay, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it. Oh, that's windy.
It's very windy. It's wet and rainy. This is a hillside in Point Richmond where a neighborhood had to be evacuated. Yeah, because of a potential landslide. You can see crews are up there on the hill trying to figure out, is this thing coming down? So this is the Steep Cliff neighborhood in Point Richmond, near Brickyard Cove in the Point Richmond area. It is under threat, so they had to have people leave that area. And according to Richmond Mayor Tom Butt, 15 homes were evacuated because of that. So just wanted to play that.
That's loud.
I know. Right? Stop sharing that screen.
But like, listen, but I mean, that wind, I mean, in my house, it's the wind that I was most scared of. Again, it's not raining too hard in San Jose, but this morning, the wind I felt I could hear it in my microwave. That's how it was like shaking my house. Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, so this is a serious situation. So we're already seeing this possible landslide in Point Richmond. Landslides likely in the Santa Cruz Mountains and other areas around the Bay Area. Remember, this soil is already soaked from last weekend. So now you get it pummeled again with more rain, and then you get the wind and the trees toppling and the power lines falling, and you have more danger. This is a potentially life-threatening emergency. And as we've said before, California Office of Emergency Services has its flood center up. They're watching the levees. The state of California now has a state of emergency in place for California so they can respond to any disasters more quickly. In other news, it is still ongoing. Former President Trump endorsing Kevin McCarthy for the role of House Speaker, but after 5 votes, it doesn't look good. Should we look and see what the new vote is, Nikki? Because they were doing a 6th round of voting. And let's see what
I think Eric had it.
He loses it again. Yeah. It looks like the 6th round of voting didn't go so well either.
Oh my God. I mean, it's the truth of the matter is he's not going to get it. At least unless something fundamentally changes, like we need a speaker right now, or but again, he is so adamant. And I love, and if you missed it, Paul Kane joined us in the first hour. He's a Washington Post congressional correspondent. He was saying that he described Kevin McCarthy as a guy that just wants to be liked by everybody, but he doesn't do anything for other people. It's just all about him. And I think people see through that facade, and he's just like, nah, man, you're not the guy. And I don't know how long it's going to take before he realizes it, but it could be more than 133, which was the last record. So that'd be crazy.
So the 6th round of voting right now, McCarthy has 148, the Democrat Jeffries 147, and Representative Donalds, who's the alternative candidate put forth as opposed to McCarthy, has 16 of those 20 votes. Those were the dissenters. So it looks like this 6th round is not going well for McCarthy, and we probably see another one. Here we go again. We're going to keep on doing it. We'll go now to doctors highlighting the importance of sports physicals after Damar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest during a game on Monday night. The Buffalo Bills player collapsed after a tackle and then had to have his heartbeat restored on the field. Dr. Alan Anderson with the University of Texas Health System says those sports physicals that high school athletes get every year can include heart scans, and that, he says, could catch a red flag to prevent what happened. Of course, everyone kind of guessing what happened, and nobody really knows for sure. More political ads, unfortunately, will soon be popping up on Twitter. The social media company announcing it yesterday it will ease its ban on political ads in the coming weeks. The move, a reversal of Twitter's decision in 2019 to ban political ads after it faced scrutiny for allowing misinformation to spread. Again, now Twitter says, come on over, advertise your politics over here. We'll take it. That's right. Fewer people applying for mortgages right now. The Mortgage Bankers Association says application volume dropped by just over 13% last week as interest rates went higher to close out 2022. The average rate for a 30-year mortgage hit nearly 6.6%. Yikes, that's high. And it looks like more people would be buying electric vehicles if they weren't so damn expensive. A new survey by Deloitte Consulting found nearly 7 in 10 prospective EV buyers in the U.S. expect to pay less than $50,000 for their next vehicle. More than half of those respondents said a lack of affordability was keeping them from buying an electric vehicle at all. And
well, how much would you spend on a car, a brand new car, Kim? What is your, now this is brand new, you said?
How much would I spend, or how much do I have to spend? Because how much I would spend.
I think that that should be the right. See, come over to the balancing of your budget room over here, Kim. You should only spend what you can. So how much would you or should you spend? What's your budget for a car? Like, what could you possibly spend?
Well, right now I wouldn't buy. We painted a car so that we didn't have to have a new car, right?
But if you had to buy a car right now,
if
that
I
thing
needed
blew
a
up.
new car,
Yes.
and so we're not a trader-inner. We're like, keep the car till it blows up.
Of
right?
course. Okay.
We're like a 20-year driver. So
your car blew up. Now you have to buy something.
So I have to have a new car.
Yes.
I just got to go out, and I might buy a used one instead of a new one. Probably $40,000, I would say.
Yeah, I wouldn't go over that either. I mean, I'd want to keep it around 30, 35.
Mhm.
So, and it would have to get good gas mileage. So it would either have to be another hybrid or an electric or something like that, because I'm not paying these gas prices, people. It's not happening.
I can hear my husband yelling "liar" from the other room. Like he's seriously 3 rooms away, and I can hear him yelling at me.
What does he think? You'd spend a lot more money?
Because he's always the one that's like, we need to not spend more than, really low amount. Pick your low amount. And I'm always the one that's like, but we're going to have it for a really long time. I'd like the seat warmers. So I really want the skylight and the moonlight that goes through the back seat too.
Yeah.
And, I'd really rather have the leather seats. I don't know. And he's always like, yeah, bare bones.
No,
We just
I
need
hear
a car
you,
to get
David.
us from point A to point B.
That's me. That's
Yeah.
me. Yeah. So how your kind of stance on like staying in fancy schmancy hotel rooms is kind of your same stance on cars. Is that what is that what I'm hearing you
It's
say?
so good. I married the guy I married. He's like, yeah, let's bring it down.
That's
sister."
exactly how James
Uh-huh.
is. He's just my husband. That's why I handle the money, my friend. That is why I handle it.
Okay, to Uber now, because Uber, New York City Uber drivers are expected to go on strike tomorrow. Thousands of drivers were supposed to get a pay raise last month, but Uber sued to stop that. So Uber says its workers deserve to be paid fairly, but driver pay has already gone up more than 38% since 2019. So they don't want that raise to go into place. Oh, little fight over money. What else, right? This report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses. Gotta call Steve if you need help with your taxes. He really is wonderful. 888-TAX-DEAL or MoskowitzLLP.com. You can see it spelled out on the bottom of your screen there. That is the website to go to. Check out the website, then give him a call. And as he told us yesterday, you can't call or prepare too early. All the time in the world is better than calling at the very end in April, right? So check him out now. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
right, thank you for joining us on the second hour of the Nikki Medoro Show. And yes, Steve Moskowitz will be joining us this hour. You know when you send emails to a bunch of people? So I had this whole email that I've been writing with Steve today because I've been having some back-end nonsense. And so I wrote out this whole email. I was working with the company that was in charge of all the nonsense, and I never hit send. So sorry, Steve. I just sent him the link so that he could join our show. This is what happens when you're doing everything on your own. But hey,
yeah, send.
We love it. We love it. We love it. All right, click the thumbs up button, please, to support the show. I see all of you in there. You could do it even if you're watching this on replay, which most of you that watch this show do. Although I love all of you. I love the community that joins us during the live show. There's just something to be said with engaging with us live. So if you guys can catch it, it starts at noon Pacific time, Monday through Friday, and we appreciate everybody. Of course, you can donate to our Patreon by going to the NikkiMedoroShow.com. Our Patreon link is right there, and you can join the cool club, as I like to call them. You can also donate through PayPal, the NikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com. Support us also by picking up some merch. I've been designing some more merchandise, but I'm slowly rolling it out. TheNikkiMedoroShop.com. Some things I'll take away, some things I'll add. So do it all right there. And of course, the super chat is live, where you can donate either live or during the replay and throw us a few dollars in super stickers. Super thanks. We've had a ton of people donating. Stan has been donating $5 super sticker. I love you guys. JR, I'm loving the 2023. Get it? Donation. And apparently this means honesty right across my chest. Kevin Hobbs with $15. Thank you. Gary with 20. And Beth started us off with another $20 donation to our super chat. So I love you all. And thank you. All right. So we are keeping an eye on that storm. I had put on my Facebook page this morning when my power and internet was going out. I was like, let me know how it's going. And people, I mean, it was a wide range of what people were experiencing. I'm driving the kids to school. It's just windy, like light rain, mist on my windshield. And then I'm listening to the radio and it's just the Russian River is flooding in San Francisco. And people are being told to turn around on 101 and not drive until tomorrow. It's nuts out there. So just, if you don't have to drive is what they're saying, then you shouldn't, because you just don't want to take the risk. It's not safe to do. And so you shouldn't do it. And then we'll get into what Southwest Airlines is doing for its angry flyers coming up in just a moment. But first, we want to welcome our exclusive founding sponsor and friend, Steve Moskowitz, to the show. Sorry, Steve, I never hit send on the email to send you the link, but I
no problem.
Thank you.
You see, as a defense attorney, I'm not judgmental.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Well, it's funny because the reason I didn't hit send, Steve, is because, I'm working on some back end problems. So I had this long email and I'm like, by the way, Steve, I think we need to set up a meeting next week, because all of the times you're coming on the show, you're telling us, get your affairs in order. It's never too early or too late. You can always help people no matter their problem, right?
Sure. It's like a medical doctor. A medical doctor will always treat you and always do the best he or she can to help you. But, with most medical conditions, the sooner you come in, the better, and the smaller the job as opposed to the bigger the job.
Exactly. All right. So it is the beginning of January. I know you're just heading straight towards tax time. April 15th seems a long way off, but there are things that people can start doing right now to get themselves in a better position before April 15th comes. Because all you're waiting for is your W-2, W-4 paperwork to come in?
It depends on your investments. There can be other things too, K-1s, that's from investments and partnerships and so on and so forth. But also, I still want the money flowing the other way from the government to the clients.
Good point.
And there's a lot of people, Nikki, that still haven't heard about ERC, or they don't know, or they're thinking about it, or they got a lot of wrong information. There's so much wrong information. And the number one thing that really boggles me is that, the government is rewarding employers with a grant. It's not a loan. They're just giving away the money, up to $26,000 for every employee you had in 2020 and in 2021 that qualifies. And there's two ways to qualify. The easy way, which is a drop in gross revenue. But so many firms, so many CPAs are stopping there and saying, even getting in their Uber and just leaving.
Sorry, that was my fault.
Not a problem. As you know, I'm used to live radio and TV.
There you
Not a
go.
problem. And what happens is that they're telling people you don't qualify because they're mass producing these things and they don't want to do the extra work. And we talked about it last month, and it so boggled me. I remember I was talking to that CPA, and she said it was too much trouble for her.
That's crazy.
To go ahead and see if this person qualified. So she left $100,000 on the table. $100,000 is a lot of money to most people. And
Yes.
it's bad enough if somebody didn't know. That's why you should know the stuff, but she didn't know. But here she just couldn't be bothered. That bothered me. And then the two before that, the guy that left $1 million on the table and $1.5 million on the table. And not everybody qualifies. But the thing is, we will even do multiple meetings with a potential client to see if you qualify. If you don't, you'll really know you don't, and you'll know why. And do I ever tell anybody they don't qualify? Of course. If you don't qualify, say, look, you don't qualify because
right,
X, Y, and Z. But a lot of people whose gross revenue has not had that drop do qualify. How could you have an increase in revenue and still say you lost business? Very simply, COVID restrictions caused a lot of problems, and a lot of people's prices went way up. For example, I had a client who his gross revenue went up, but his cost went up from $7 a unit to $22 a unit. And a lot of customers said, I won't pay those prices. He lost a lot of business.
Yeah.
And another example is you're standing in line to go into Safeway, some store. You can't get in because of the 25% of capacity restriction. You say, you know what? I'm not going to wait in this line. I'll just go ahead and order it from Amazon. That sale was lost. Yeah. Or I had another client who sold products, and his customers said, look, we can't wait for you to install the product. If you don't have it, we'll have to go elsewhere. And a lot of business was lost. So you can have a situation where a lot of business is lost, even though, revenue goes up because people were raising prices to cover expenses. So the bottom line is, we'll go over with you. What do you qualify for? And I don't care how much time, how much work we have to do. If you're entitled to, some significant money from the government, we're willing to do the work, and we're not mass producing them like just, only doing the easy test. Sure, we start off with the easy test. It's the first question I ask clients. And if they qualify on the test, of course we do it. But if not, then we go into the other test, and an awful lot of other firms are not. And that's why people are really missing out.
They are, because I've noticed, these no-name places are just saying ERC. And I'm like, no. If anybody is qualifying for something like ERC or wants somebody that's going to put in the work, there is one person to call. And that, of course, is Steve Moskowitz. Give him a call, 888 tax deal, MoskowitzLLP.com. That's 888 tax deal, or MoskowitzzLLP.com. Steve, thank you so much. I will be calling you soon. We need to start talking early, so I need to get my stuff figured out. All right, thanks Steve.
Guys.
Bye. Bye. Yeah, so I need to get my stuff in order. I'm like starting to freak out a little bit, but I don't know.
Why are you freaking out?
I just feel like, when the new year comes and you're like, oh, let me get all my paperwork together. And you're like, I don't even know if I have the right paperwork together. So I feel like Steve is just going to take all of that, so it's not on my plate anymore. That's what I'm looking for. Just
and that's
take that off my plate.
People in the chat were saying, because earlier I had mentioned that the conversation yesterday with Steve, which was, the earlier the better, right? You need the time. And I saw people in the chat saying, but I don't even have my tax documents yet.
Yeah.
I don't even have my papers. How can you start the taxes without the numbers? But I think what Steve will do is look at what's happening, estimate, look at what what your plan should be.
Well, yeah. Right? And then if you own a business, there's things that you need to get in order and filing. And then, and I know before the end of the year, setting up pensions. I mean, talk to him. That's the whole thing, is talk to him. Maybe he'll be like, yeah, you're okay right now. Talk to me in a month or whatever. But it's a phone call.
Like if you, once you can figure out how much you make and how much you'll make for the year.
Right. Exactly.
Plot it out and estimate what the best plan of action would be. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
So give him a call, 888 tax deal, MoskowitzLLP.com, and he will help you. All right. So somebody in my Facebook post, when I was posting this morning about the storm, had said they're diverting all the flights over my house now, because they were. SFO was diverting their planes to San Jose International Airport. 2 flights were diverted to just wrong winds. A spokesperson confirmed to SF Gate that the airport was supporting the weather-related diversion. So keep that in mind if you start seeing some planes in the sky that aren't often there. But there is one airline who I'm sure is trying to weather a different kind of storm. And that, of course, is Southwest Airlines.
Mm.
So I don't know how many people in the chat were directly impacted by the nonsense that just happened with Southwest during the last storm, but they are trying to buy your love. They are going to be doling out 25,000 frequent flyer points to travelers affected by that holiday meltdown.
You know what doesn't do me any good? Points I can't really use. Like, if you're going to cancel the flight, then why do I need your points?
Well, the whole thing is like, I don't like you. It's like going to a restaurant whose food sucks. And you're like, here, we'll make it better. Here's a gift certificate to my restaurant. I don't like your restaurant, though. I don't want to eat your food. So giving me $25,000 in frequent flyer miles on an airline that maybe I've been burned by too much doesn't seem to sit well with me. But I will say, if this is the only bad experience you've had, and you've always flown Southwest and it's been a good experience, 25,000 frequent flyer points is nice. Now, the airline has not said how many passengers affected by the nearly 16,000 flight cancellations will get the points. But apparently a lot of people are going on to see if they qualify. I don't know. The 25,000 rapid reward points are being called a gesture of goodwill. Families and other groups traveling together will receive 25,000 points per person. So even if you're on the same flight, you each get it. Let's see. And your flight had to be between December 24th and January 2nd. And they're worth more than $300. So for instance, the Wall Street Journal says 25,000 points are enough, for example, for someone to go round trip from Phoenix to Maui, Hawaii in late January, which is a slow vacation period. It would also cover one-way ticket from Chicago to Fort Lauderdale, Florida over the President's Day weekend. So, I mean, it helps. It's not going to, take you to Italy or anything like that. Not saying Southwest goes there, but you think it's going to be enough? You think giving people frequent flyer miles on an airline that they're mad at is going to really?
Would it be enough for you? It wouldn't be enough for me. If my whole holiday plans had been thwarted by Southwest,
right? And think about all that
super flyer miles, and you know where you can put them.
Yeah, I mean, and then Southwest is allowing people to request reimbursement for travel if they had to find their own way after a canceled flight, but it's not being specific on exactly what can and cannot be reimbursed. So there's this website. Now you can put your expense reimbursement request in and save all of your receipts. They're telling you to save every single receipt. But when this news organization contacted the airline to see what was eligible, they didn't have a specific answer. A spokesman said, "We don't have specifics to share on exact items that will be considered for reimbursement. Rental cars, other airline tickets, and food are specifically mentioned in the frequently asked questions." And they don't have an end date regarding how long requests can be submitted. I know somebody that was stuck in Phoenix. And it almost seemed from his posts, because he kept updating the situation, as if he was not going to seek reimbursement, as if it was a hassle or, oh, it wasn't that bad, or... And I'm like, no, get every dime from this airline that you are owed, because you should definitely be compensated, in addition to the fact that you got a holiday ruined because of the nonsense.
Right.
Let's see. Karen writes in, "We're Southwest fans because we took Southwest to bring our adult son back home from the hospital in a wheelchair yesterday, and everyone at Southwest was exceptionally nice and helpful." Oh, well, that's good to hear. And I'm sorry to hear about your son being in the hospital, but they better be nice and helpful after everything that just happened. Not saying they wouldn't have been anyway, but Ricky O'Bear says, "Got a fistful of cash after a cancellation. Stand up for yourself and don't take a pittance." Absolutely. Reimbursement is better, Liz says. My son had to fly back on Delta. It's a pricey ticket. And yeah, Karen supports it. Ask for more, push for more compensation. So get what you are owed, people, but just know that without specifics, and the devils are in the details, that they're probably not going to give you everything that you are owed. Okay, I did want to update a little bit of the Damar Hamlin situation. It's looking better for him, although obviously he's not out of the woods just yet. The latest Bills tweet was Damar remains in the ICU. This is, of course, the Buffalo Bill safety who had that cardiac arrest, which was the mistake I was making. It's not a heart attack, it's cardiac arrest. And there's a difference. I was interchanging, and they say people often do interchange cardiac arrest and a heart attack, but they're different. So a heart attack is what they call it. There's a doctor, he said, an acute myocardial infarction. Some of the heart muscle is severely jeopardized or dies, typically due to an insufficient amount of oxygen. Basically, there's an artery blockage. A heart attack can be the inciting cause for a cardiac arrest, but they are distinct. Most heart attacks do not cause cardiac arrest. However, a sizable percentage of cardiac arrests result from some sort of heart attack. So that's the mistake that I was making, because I was doing what a lot of people do, which is interchanging the two. But they say that Damar remains in the ICU in critical condition with signs of improvement noted yesterday and overnight. He's expected to remain under intensive care as his health care team continues to monitor and treat him. Of course, his family is thanking everybody for support. I think his GoFundMe at last check, and it's probably higher now, was over $6 million, which is huge for him. But again, there is this question that we were delving into yesterday, and Kim, we were on the same page about, if my kid wanted to play football, I'd say no, right? Yeah. Well, the Today Show was doing this article about how parents are feeling following Hamlin's injury on the field. Mm-hmm. And now, while 48%, this was a 2018 poll, 48% of parents said they would encourage their children to play a different sport. A lot of people were kind of leaving it up to the child on whether or not they actually played. So, for instance, they were talking to a number of parents, and they said, while they understand that the sport is dangerous, they wouldn't deny their child from playing a sport that they love. One parent by the name of Eric Master said, I see how much they love to play, how happy it makes them, and how it motivates them to excel in other areas of their lives. Ultimately, we're on the same page, on the same team, and that is to encourage them to do what they love and help them prepare or mitigate any injuries. I don't know about that. So tell me in the chat. It could be football. It could be something else. If you did not want your child to participate in something, an extracurricular, whether it's football because of the dangers or fill in the blank, who has the final say? You or the kid? Because I feel like with football, the kid is not at a maturity level to weigh the pros and cons between I love this sport versus the injury. Now, as they get older, obviously they would, but then you're kind of instilling it in them. If you have concerns about the violence in football, don't sign your 5-year-old up for peewee football. Right. Because that doesn't make any sense. You're putting the love of it in them already. I love watching football. There's no way in hell I'm going out on the field and catching a football. Maybe on Thanksgiving, if somebody throws it to me and I maybe catch it, but I could love watching the game and not playing the game.
Don't you think that's silly to let a child choose? I mean, kids think that they're immortal anyway. So,
right.
And there's that whole, it can never happen to me thing. But if you know that repeated hits to the head could damage your child and leave them, injured through their adulthood, right, and bring on an early death and depression and all kinds of other issues, then why would you let them make the choice? That's right. I don't understand.
Another mom, Hannah Murphy, says she loves football and was thrilled when her 9-year-old son wanted to play, but then watched him play tackle football for 2 years. And she says, now I'm starting to grow concerned about the potential for injury
Oh,
due to
now
the
you are.
obvious size difference between some of the kids, which is another great point. You know that kids grow at different sizes. I mean, there are kids that are in 6th grade and they look like they're high school, right? I mean, it's just how kids grow, right? Their maturity, their genes, all of those sorts of things. Now put them on the same football team because they're the same grade or same age. That doesn't seem, fair.
No.
Another man, Kyle Vilmont, works in a rehab hospital. And so he's seen a lot of sports related injuries. And so when their 8-year-old son showed an interest in playing football, the mom listened. She said, I felt anxious, but guilty. He's very little. I worry about that kind of injury. Yeah. The guilt comes from the fact that I know how much he wants to play and I don't want to inhibit him from doing something he loves to do. I mean, guilt? I feel like, yes, there's a way of playing flag football. Like, okay, flag football, there's no tackling, right? It's literally going for the flag. Tackle football, what do you love about it? You like to hit people? You like to be hit? I feel that there's a way of kind of having a conversation about the desire to play a certain sport versus, is this going in line of, we watch a lot of football on TV, and so they're idolizing some of these football players and not really understanding the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into this. Because I'm not leaving it up to my kid. That's my stance. I'm sorry. I know that you love the game. It's way too dangerous. You can have injuries that will stay with you the rest of your life. Harry Carson is a Pro Football Hall of Famer and was on with CNN. I have a picture of him. But this is what he says. I'm going to play you what he said because he was asked, he has grandsons that are interested in football or playing football. And so he was being asked by Don Lemon, like, what would you say?
The game is a violent game. Mm-hmm. And you know that you can get hurt physically, but nobody tells you that you could get hurt from a neurological standpoint. Your brain can be changed in ways that you find out down the road what damage you may have done. When I first stepped on the football field in the 9th grade, I sustained a concussion and I knew I shouldn't be there and I quit. Okay. The next year I went back because I didn't like that taste of quitting in my gut just to see if I could make it. And as it turned out, I wound up being a pretty good player, but I will always remember those hits that I gave and I received on the football field. And I know football is not for everybody. And I enjoyed playing, but I enjoyed the relationships that I formed more than anything else. I was never really built to be a football player because I don't have that kind of violence in me to want to go out and just smack people around.
If I know it's not your decision, it's his, but if you were just say Damar's relative, dad, what would you advise him? Would you advise him to play after this?
If he'd asked me, should my son play? I'd say, well, whatever you want him to do, that's fine. And if he asked me, no, give me the truth, should he play? And I would say no.
He shouldn't go back.
Should not go back because you've already sustained an injury. At some point down the line, you may sustain another injury, and you might become an altogether different person than you are now. So,
yeah, I mean that's the truth. I mean, we how many stories do we hear about CTE and the slow, creep of personality changes, anger, all those sorts of things. And it can lead to that. You don't see it and you won't know or be able to confirm it until they die. And so it's nothing that should be taken lightly. That's all I'm saying. I'm not judging parents. And like I mentioned yesterday, and my nephew plays football and he's good and he loves it. And it's all those sorts of things. Not my kid, right? I've made my opinion known. He doesn't care. He wants to play football. And his parents support it. And I support them. I mean, it's their child. But when it's my kid, and their head. And thankfully I'm not in the position to make that decision because my kid doesn't want to play. So it's easier.
He said something that I hadn't thought of before because I was like you thinking about my kid and my kid's health. Yeah. But he said he thinks about all the hits he gave to other people.
Exactly.
And so when you let your kid out there, especially a kid like mine, who's a tank. I mean, he's, looks like
he's gonna hit.
He's 8 and he looks like he's in middle school. I mean, he's huge. Yeah. And so when you have a kid like that's big, the tallest in the class type of thing, and you send them out on a football field, imagine the damage they could do to other kids. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah. I mean, well, Ricky, and I know that he said it wasn't his quote, but it's a good one. American football is not a contact sport. It's a collision sport. And I like that because that's such a great quote because it's so visual, right? You're colliding. I'm not hitting you. We are hitting each other. I mean, how many times, are people making these gigantic hits? And yeah, the person that had the ball, they didn't get to make the play or whatever, but think about the guy that hit him. That had to hurt too. And so, yeah, again, and I'm not knocking Damar Hamlin's family. I'm really curious to see if he hopefully will fully recover. But if and when he fully recovers, if it's going to be hard to make a decision of going back on the field, or if this is just like, nope, I'm done. And hopefully he will survive and be well enough to actually make that decision. I mean, that is the best outcome, is that he is physically able to make the decision. And if it was my kid, I'd be like, no way in hell are you stepping one more foot on that field. Okay, we'll do Kim's news real quickly. Then I'll come back. We have a couple of celebrity news, but I'm going to fit in. I don't know if you've seen this doggy daycare bus. Have you seen this video? I am going to be showing this to you within the next 20 minutes. I mean, it put the biggest smile across my face. A reminder that tomorrow we will be having Krista Maloney with the San Francisco SPCA on. We're trying to get dogs adopted. I heard this terrible story, Kim, about the number of dogs that are being turned into shelters and sadly having healthy adoptable dogs and pets having to be euthanized because there's just people are hitting hard times. It's not as if they want to give up their dog, but they're moving into places where they can't have dogs. They're moving in with relatives that have allergies. I know everyone has strong feelings about surrendering a dog, but I was listening to this one woman say that was with an SPCA, not a local one, saying don't judge these people. It's easy to judge, but people are in really hard situations, and so we're trying to get these pups adopted. And so again, that'll happen in the 1:30 part, or the second part of the show, and that will be tomorrow. All right, let's take a look at some headlines.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Love it. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Right to the rain. Flooding around the Bay Area, very possible, already happening in many spots because of this big storm coming in. A statewide state of emergency is in place as this major winter storm arrives in California. And some cities are actually putting states of emergency into place as well. The town of Danville, which was hit really hard last weekend, has a local emergency in response to storms. Also, it looks like some counties as well. Marin County has their emergency warming centers activated. Berkeley expected to flood as well. So a lot of people, a lot of cities are taking steps here. This Office of Emergency Services statewide, they say they expect the storm to be one of the most impactful of the last 5 years. And we are already, again, seeing flooding and downed trees closing roads. So let's go to some road closures because if you're driving around out there, which is not recommended anyway, you should know that Highway 101 is fully closed in Humboldt County because of multiple downed trees. They don't have a time of when they're going to clear that. Highway 1 in Sonoma County is closed from Myers Grade in Jenner to Timber Cove Road. In San Jose, 500 block of Sierra Road, it's shut down due to a mudslide. Drivers are being asked to avoid that area. Those are probably not the only road closures. And this afternoon, starting in just a few minutes all the way till 9 o'clock, we're going to see the heaviest rains coming in. So if you can avoid the roadways, that's really the best way to handle this whole situation. Crews are, I should say, this week, rules kick into effect, booting some 70,000 big rigs from California roadways. Any diesel vehicles weighing more than 14,000 pounds and built before 2010 are now banned from operating on California roads to help keep the air clean. And the vote for Speaker of the House is now in its 6th round after Kevin McCarthy failed to get enough votes in the previous 5. Pennsylvania's Scott Perry said Washington is completely broken and Republicans need a new direction. As a result, he nominated Byron Donalds of Florida to be the Speaker of the House. He's not getting a lot of votes. Really, that 20 that broke apart are the ones voting for Byron Donalds of Florida. But Byron Donalds voted for himself as well. Conservatives opposed to McCarthy do not appear to be budging. He has yet to gain any yes votes from those 20 over multiple ballots. Let's see if I can do a little update. Oh, yeah. 6th round didn't look so good. So it looks like they have to go to a 7th round. We'll see how it all works out. We're going to keep track of it. We were talking earlier about Damar Hamlin, and here's something that I hadn't thought about, but apparently a lot of other people had. Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins now reaching out to Damar Hamlin's family. He was involved in that tackle that caused Hamlin to go into cardiac arrest on the field Monday night during the first quarter. Hamlin's friend and marketing representative Jordan Rooney telling CNN Hamlin's parents are really frustrated with the backlash that T. Higgins is getting for that hit. So you can imagine how bad he feels in that whole situation. I hadn't thought about that. I was just thinking about Damar Hamlin, but think about the guy that involved in that hit, right?
Yeah.
And it is, I'm not sure if we've already done this story, but it is therapy. That is the top New Year's resolution in most states. Yes.
Good. I'm so happy to hear that.
Seeking therapy is the top on the list in 12 states after losing weight in 8 states. Among the states where therapy is the most popular resolution, Arizona, Florida, Missouri, and New York. The survey conducted by Zippia, which is an online job search agency. And we will end it with Hugh and Ryan. They're at it again. Hugh Jackman begging the Academy not to validate Ryan Reynolds with an Oscar nomination for his role in the Christmas musical Spirited. In a Twitter video, Jackman said Reynolds is getting a nomination is in the best song category would make the next year of his life insufferable.
I love it.
He said he has to spend the next year with him shooting Wolverine and Deadpool, and he said it would be absolutely impossible and a problem to be around him. Jackman began the video by saying he loved Spirited and his entire family enjoyed the film as well. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses. If you need help with your taxes, it's all about Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-DEAL or MoskowitzLLP.com. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
I never saw Spirited. Did you see Spirited? I wanted to. I think it's on Peacock or something. One of those streaming services that I know I could have watched it. Maybe Netflix. Yeah, I wanted to. My daughter was invited to a birthday party where they rented out the whole theater. You know, they do that like in the middle of the day type of thing.
Yeah.
And that was the movie. But I hung out with the moms outside, and then the girls were like going in and out getting popcorn, so I don't even think they really watched it, so I don't really have a good review of it. We'll bring on Tim Sika on Friday. I don't think he has seen it. I'll have to reach out to him and see if he can come on, and two, if he has seen it. So I don't know if we ever did this really sad story about ABC News's Dax Tahara. Did you know him?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so he was an executive producer on ABC News, okay? And apparently, when was this? Oh, it was December 23rd. So it came out like right around Christmas time. Him and his wife were out to dinner in Manhattan with another couple. And apparently, Dax Tahara suffered a heart attack and died at the restaurant.
Oh, no.
Okay, so really, really sad story. Well, now it's coming out that his wife, Veronica, is now facing 2 charges of child endangerment because they were, one, around the corner at this restaurant, around the corner from their hotel room, while their 2-year-old and 5-month-old daughters were asleep inside the hotel room.
So at the point where he had the heart attack, they had left their kids alone in the hotel?
Yeah, so they were going out to dinner. So just imagine they're at the hotel. They leave their 2-year-old and 5-month-old children, I'm assuming asleep. Now the mom says that she had a video on them the whole time in the hotel. and left to go to a restaurant around the corner. Okay. Outside this restaurant, Dax has a heart attack and she needs to go to the hospital. So the mom tells her friends and parents, go to the hotel room where the kids are, because she needed to go to the hospital with her husband who had died. Okay. Well, apparently the hotel refused to allow the friend to enter the hotel and called the cops. And so then the cops arrived. And so now she's facing these charges. Police arrived to find unattended children inside the hotel. It's the Yale Club Hotel. The children had been left alone inside the hotel room for an extended period of time. Now, apparently they left the hotel at 8 to meet the couple. The guy, Dax, collapsed outside. When her friend arrived at the hotel 2 hours later, so between 8 and 10 is when I guess the police with the friend and everyone showed up. I just feel so bad for, obviously you lost your husband. You can't do things like this. Like I remember when I bought my house when we bought our house in Sacramento, our next door neighbors were our age, and she was pregnant at the same time I was pregnant with my daughter. And so we would always hang out in front of our houses because we had one of those where there was no fence in between your houses. It was just one big lawn that we had to share. So it's like, you always wanted to like, hey, I'm going to mow, you got to mow because it's going to look really weird if you don't mow. And it was great. But what was funny was if our baby monitors would work. Like sometimes we would pick up each other's signals because our houses were so freaking close together, which is fun. So we'd hang out in front of our houses. That's different than a hotel room and going around the corner and going to a dinner.
No, if you're home steps away from the child's room, but you're standing outside your house, that's fully different than leaving a child in a hotel room and going around the corner to a restaurant.
And
then
a
going to a
5-month-old?
hospital.
Like that's
No
what,
way.
yeah, Karen's right. 5 months, 2 and 5. Like
No.
I can understand if you have like a 13 and 11-year-old. Okay. Like, okay.
Now, I fully disagree with not letting the friend in because the longer they're alone,
Right. Who knows
more
what's
of a
going
danger
on?
something could happen. Right. But that was a bad move on her part.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just, but my heart goes out. It's just a really bad mistake. Now, Dax Sahara joined ABC News as a senior producer, worked on This Week with George Stephanopoulos. He was also produced America with Jorge Ramos. He was young. How old was he? He was really, I mean, he was a young guy. So Veronica, his wife, was 33. I'm not seeing his age, but he was probably around the same age as her. So really, really tragic story. But at the same time, can you imagine? You just lost your husband and now you could be facing some serious charges. I understand nothing. She even admitted, she was like, it was the wrong in the moment decision. I would have gone home and gotten my kids and gone to the hospital. I know you don't want to leave your husband, but you have children in a hotel room. Like, I don't know. I just, it's just
I hate
really
to
bad
say
today.
it, but the husband is with paramedics. There's really nothing you can do.
Yeah, I know,
I mean,
but
there's nothing you can do. He's getting medical care. What do you need to do? Where do you need to be? You need to be with your children, making sure they're okay.
Exactly.
Bundle them up in the middle of the night, let your friend come in, whatever. But it's interesting with people like that. I have to feel like that probably wasn't the first time she did that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, yeah. I don't want to judge people, like, because I don't know and I don't want to say, yeah. But I can't imagine that. The first time you ever leave your children alone is at a hotel room in New York City. No, I don't think so. Just not the right decision to make at all.
I mean, a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old.
Yeah.
I'll leave my 13-year-old and 8-year-old.
Yeah, well, 13-year-old's a babysit. Like that's
she's got a Girl Scout babysitting certification. Like I'm feeling comfortable, right? So
babies at 11. I don't know. Parents back in the day were a lot more trusting.
But not all 13-year-olds are the same. I mean, some are not responsible. Some can't be trusted, right?
Exactly. A little lighter story about not being, not assessing the situation and making the right decision. Now, this is out of Thailand. I was reading this story to my mom yesterday, and she could not stop laughing. Okay. So a man forgets his wife at a rest stop and drove. How long do you think he drove before he realized that she wasn't in the car?
I already know the answer.
Oh, did you do this in your news?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not on your show, though.
Okay, 100 miles. 100 miles. Now, again, this was in Thailand. 55-year-old Boon Toom Chai Moon and his wife Amne decided to go drive through the hometown for the holidays. At one point, Boontoom needed to relieve himself. So he pulls over, takes care of his business. But while he was doing it, the wife's like, I could kind of go too. So Umne decided she'd go use the bathroom and dashed off behind some trees to kind of do her business. Again, this is in Thailand, I guess. But when she came back, the car was gone. But what else was in the car? Her money, her phone. So she's stranded in the dark. The woman walked 13 miles before she found a police station. She asked for the police's help to find her husband. Couldn't remember his phone number, which is like, come on, if there's one number you need to remember, it's your husband's. Couldn't. So the authorities couldn't locate him. Eventually, they were able to get his number. They called him. But Boontoom was driving and now not checking his phone. Didn't notice that he was missing all these phone calls. So after 100 miles, he finally realized that Amne was not in the back seat. He thought she was asleep in the back seat the whole entire time. Now you tell me, as a wife,
100 miles.
100 miles. Like, that's the silent treatment. That's all I'm gotta say. That is, she must give him the silent treatment so much that he doesn't realize that she's not even in the car. Like, come on, Boontoom. I mean, no way. Squarius is gonna.
You are out.
I'd be 27-year marriage. Yeah, someone's sleeping on the couch, actually. But yeah, I know. Do you ever get the feeling like someone's in your car when you're driving by yourself? Like, I always get that feeling like I have to look in the back seat anyways.
No. Are you okay?
No, sometimes if I'm driving by myself, or I'll just be like, when we used to work at Station X and my car was in the parking lot at night and I'd be getting in. You know me, I like my scary movies. Those things go through my head.
You should look in the, check before you get in. Just exactly. Take a cursory glance.
Oh, no, I don't know. Guess who out-gangstered Snoop Dogg and Tupac? Any guesses? Who out-gangstered Tupac and Snoop Dogg? Any guesses? None other than Dionne Warwick.
What?
Okay, so Snoop Dogg was in the CNN documentary called Dionne Warwick, Don't Make Me Over. And he was telling this story that happened with Dionne Warwick and Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight, who was the co-founder of Death Row Records. So apparently, Dionne Warwick was fed up to hear about hearing misogynistic lyrics in their rap songs. So she's like, you guys are going to come over to my house. Apparently, Snoop Dogg says they were so scared they got there 8 minutes early. I don't know how he knows 8 minutes. And Warwick, he said, demanded that they call her a bitch to see how it made them feel. Warwick said, you guys are all going to grow up. You're going to have families. You're going to have children. You're going to have little girls. And one day that little girl is going to look to you and say, Daddy, did you really say that? Is that really you? What are you going to say? So both, obviously, Tupac and Snoop were using the words like bitch and hoe in their songs. And Warwick said in the documentary that these kids are expressing themselves, but there's a proper way to do it. And so Snoop said this. He said, she was checking me at the time when I thought I couldn't be checked. We were the most gangsta as you could be. But that day, Dionne Warwick's house, I believe, we got out gangstered that day. He said, Dionne, I hope I became the jewel that you saw when I was little, dirty rock that was in your house. I hope I make you proud. So I just loved it, right? Like, go ahead. And she spoke about it actually on a different show called The Real. And she said, when the rappers felt she was, as they said, dissing them, Warwick reminded them, if I didn't care about you, you would not have been invited to my home. So I just love that story. I mean, can you imagine?
No, I was going to say, can you imagine them looking at her and saying that and calling her a
like, go ahead, call me a bitch.
No, how could you possibly?
Like, no, ma'am whatsoever.
No, ma'am, and we're sorry. And we won't do it anymore.
Sorry. Okay, so we're going to end it on this very fun note because I have been loving, I swear I've watched these videos. I'm going to start with this first one. This is going viral on TikTok right now. Hold on, let me make sure I've got it all ready for you. So this is not a regular bus, but a doggy bus. Look at this.
Well, good morning.
Dogs are. Hello. Look, their little warm jackets. And look, looking at the seats, which seat is mine? Look how all the dogs are sitting. And there's a little nugget right there. It's a golden doodle right there. Sits down, gets strapped in. Look at that. Oh,
Funny.
yeah, so it's really, really cold. And they go and look, the dogs wait. Look. They wait right there. Look at the wagging of the
Good morning, Amaru. You're not buckled in.
Good morning, Bama.
I love this. I love it. Look, they're all strapped in. They all sniff each other's butt. Like, hello, let me sniff your butt. There you go. Wagging the tail in your seat. So, yeah. So this woman
Where
does
are they
this.
going? What are they doing?
Exactly. Like, I'm not quite sure where they're going, but there's another video. This is them waiting at the bus stop. This woman's gone like viral on TikTok for posting these kinds of videos. But look at this. This is the bus stop. Look at these dogs all waiting there.
Good dogs. Break.
I know Amy, one of our viewers, is a dog walker. I think we have a couple dog walkers. I can't even imagine
Let's go.
how well behaved these dogs are. The
Really
control he
well-behaved.
has.
She must be a trainer and
Trainer or
dog
something.
walker.
Yeah, exactly. I think she just takes them out and. Oh, but yeah, I mean, she just does this and picks them up. Look at those little doggies. I'm just so enjoying the whole entire thing. It's like she has to corral them, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's like a dog herder. But yeah, so
That's funny.
that's Lynn. And she does the doggy daycare bus. And so I just thought it was really, really cute and a great way to end the show. A reminder
It
again,
is.
though, that we're going to have some dogs on tomorrow that are up for adoption. Yes, Kim McAllister.
Let me, I don't want to thwart your happy ending, but I do want to say
Oh, damn you.
the House has adjourned with no resolution after 6 votes where McCarthy didn't get any more traction. They're now taking a break and they've adjourned for the day.
Yeah.
They'll be back at it tomorrow, or
No,
maybe not. We'll see.
Tomorrow, I thought it was they're going to come back until 8 o'clock. At 8 o'clock tonight, so 5 o'clock our time. They're
Oh,
going to
you're
come
right.
back.
It is. The House has voted to adjourn until 8 p.m. Wednesday. You're correct.
Yeah. So you can have your dinner and enjoy seeing Kevin McCarthy fall again. I mean, what's the over under? It's he again. I've said this once and I'll say it again. He said out loud to the press, "I do not mind holding the record for the most votes for House Speaker, most times having to vote, and the record right now is 133, 133 times." Yeah, no. But yeah, so you can pop some popcorn, eat your dinner. It'll help your indigestion to watch that guy get some indigestion. I have no idea, but couldn't have happened to a worse politician. All right, before we go, please click that thumbs up button. It helps support the show. If you want to become a Patreon subscriber, it is simple. It's easy peasy. Just go to thenikkimedoroshow.com. The Patreon link is right there. And you can sign up for any amount. There's no threshold to get the exclusive content that I'm putting on there. Also, if you want to support the show out and about when you're doing anything in your day, go to thenikkimedoroshop.com. More merchandise is coming. We're going to slowly roll it out. Get your fill. I'm getting some orders in. I really appreciate everybody that's been buying cups and shirts and tote bags. A tote bag just went out today. I got the email about that. And so please go to the NikkiMedoroShop.com and you can pick up whatever merchandise we have there. PayPal is the NikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com. It is easy peasy. And let's do some thank yous from the super chat one more time because we always appreciate it. Of course, Beth with $20. We had Gary with $20. Gary and Sandy, I should say. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you both. Yeah.
Kevin with $15 and JR
what
with
up?
2023. I love your 2023 donation. And of course, Stan, the CPA with $5. So we'll be back tomorrow. Again, send me any story ideas. We absolutely love them. And we will talk tomorrow. Take it away.
Nikki, you're oh so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful person. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.